Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of this F1 25 Joshua Pearce career mode. This is part 47 of this series. If you did miss the last episode, Sonny Hayes made it 2 wins in a row from Australia to China, with Oscar Piastri finishing second to make it a clean sweep for Apex GP in both the sprint and the Grand Prix for the Chinese Grand Prix, with Lewis Hamilton in the end holding on to clinch a podium for Ferrari. The Tifosi would be very pleased with this result. Not to be on the podium for myself though is very disappointing, despite getting pole position, but I fought to the wire to get that P4, with Lando Norris crashing out from 4th, and maybe that is just where the car was on that weekend. So definitely improvements need to be made to get ourselves closer to Apex GP and try to battle for a race win. Going into this next round though, Sonny Hayes has extended his championship lead to 19 points ahead of his teammate Oscar Piastri. Then it is Lewis Hamilton in 3rd, 12 points further behind, and myself in 4th, another 3 points behind. And Lando Norris is in 5th. He's only a single point behind myself, so very close between ourselves. And Apex GP leads the Constructors' Championship by 48 points to Ferrari. Then McLaren, we sit in 3rd, 2 points further behind. And going straight to an upgrade, we're looking at the durability with an MGUH reliability test. And this is going to be a major test as well, which will jump our durability package to better than Williams on the performance charts. And just going to do the standard development on this one too, which will get it onto the car, hopefully in time for Saudi Arabia, which is in a not too long time. And this is going to be huge as well, because we have our first secret meeting in over a year, and it's with Ferrari. Now, when Ferrari come knocking, you don't say no. At this stage of the season, they sit in 2nd in the Constructors, with Charles Leclerc in 6th and Lewis Hamilton in 3rd. And they both have season best finishes of 3rd as well. So for McLaren though, we sit 3rd in the Constructors with Lando Norris in 5th and myself in 4th, with Lando actually getting a P2 in Australia for the first race, and myself still yet to get a podium, but I do have a best finish of 4th, so knocking on the door of the podium. But going to continue talks with Ferrari at the moment, because as I said, you don't turn them away when they come knocking. We'll see how this one plays out, and we'll see how Ferrari play out during the season as well.
Been scouring the socials and asking around, and I'm delighted to say that the team are none the wiser about us chatting with anyone else. And the meeting went well too. I know. I'm amazing. You're welcome.
Well, that is a very good news. So far, the talks with Ferrari have stayed under the rug, which is good news for our working relationship moving forward with McLaren, because we don't want to be kept in the dark for the development of the next car in Season 5. And now that a little bit of time has elapsed as well, we've got enough points now to take a look at a aerodynamics package, and this is for some minor front downforce upgrades by getting a new territory front wing flaps as well, and these will allow for better airflow to increase the downforce on the car, and this will jump our aero package to better than Mercedes and will come in before Saudi Arabia on a standard development. So that is going to be absolutely massive. And taking a look at the bigger picture now, because Apex GP are still very clearly the car with the best package on board, but don't bring any upgrades this weekend. And for us, on the other hand, it's a great ground made against my old team to close that performance gap. Ferrari and Red Bull Ford also bring upgrades, but look at the improvement for Haas Toyota. They have jumped to nearly the best of the rest status, with all of the other teams also bringing in upgrades for this Bahrain Grand Prix. So let's get straight into qualifying.
Well, as the sun goes down, the speeds go up. It's almost time to get underway for this shootout for the fastest time and the best possible grid position for tomorrow's race. Let's get on with it. It's qualifying for the Bahrain Grand Prix.
In theory, this should be a circuit that we do very well at, considering we do our pre-season testing here in the Bahrain circuit, and so expecting it to do pretty well, at least at the very bare minimum. I want to get myself into Q3 and in the top half of the Q3 session as well. And that first flying lap wasn't too good, so we've gone around on the same set of tyres as well, mind you, for the second flying lap here. Did a cool down lap and going again once more for a fast lap. So it's an improvement, but not a position improvement. And by the time the checkered flag falls, it's Sonny Hayes fastest in qualifying, won by 900ths of a second to Lando Norris. Lewis Hamilton's in 3rd, 3/10 further behind. Myself in 9th, 8/10 off the pace in the end, and knocked out of this first part of qualifying. So Liam Lawson by 3/10 of a second. Franco Colapinto, Kimi Antonelli, Isaac Hadjar to make it both the Racing Bull Fords out. Lance Stroll and Paul Aaron not making it to this next session of qualifying, as we now round out our first flying lap here in qualifying 2 on a brand new set of soft compound tyres. It puts us provisionally third, but you can see now we've dropped down to 7th position now behind Esteban Ocon in that Red Bull Ford. And we have got an improvement of 3.5 tenths. Where is that going to put us? That's going to put us up to P5. And now as the checkered flag falls, it's Oscar Piastri fastest in qualifying 2 by nearly 3 tenths to Charles Leclerc. Then Verstappen in 3rd, a further 2 tenths behind. Myself in 5th, a further 3 tenths behind. And Lando Norris is in 7th, a second off the pace and knocked out in qualifying 2s. Both the Williams of Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz. Both the Audi Sports of Gabriel Bortoletto ahead of Zane Maloney. And both the Haas Toyotas of Oliver Behrman ahead of Jack Doohan. And now this is the crunch time as Oscar Piastri sets the pace early on in this session. It's a brand new set of soft compound tyres. We're able to do those 2 laps in qualifying 2 on brand new sets of tyres. So we've got 2 brand new sets of soft compound tyres for this session. So we are absolutely going to be on it. There is another 3.5 tenth improvement. In that time, it puts us to 5th position. So that puts me inside the top half of the Q3 session that I really wanted. But it's Oscar Piastri in pole position for the Bahrain Grand Prix by just under a tenth of a second ahead of Lando Norris. And then Charles Leclerc in 3rd, 2 tenths further behind, with the championship leader Sonny Hayes sharing the 2nd row of the grid, and myself in 5th, 7 tenths off the pace with Pierre Gasly alongside Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. After showing good pace in the earlier sessions, will be disappointed starting at the tail end of the top 10.
The stage is set for another enthralling race here in the Kingdom of Bahrain. A Ferrari stronghold in years gone by. Will they be able to add to their record today? We'll be racing around 3.36 miles of the magnificent Bahrain International Circuit today. Keep an eye out for drivers locking the front left down into the tricky braking zone of turn 10. So with the race not far away from starting, here's what today's grid rundown looks like. Oscar Piastri lines up on pole position, and Lando Norris lines up alongside. Considering the rest of the grid, we have Leclerc, Hayes, Joshua Pearce, and Gasly, Hamilton, Russell, Ocon, and Max Verstappen, Albon, Sainz, Gabriel Bortoletto, and Maloney, Behrman, Doohan, Liam Lawson, and Franco Colapinto, Antonelli, Stroll, Aaron, and Isaac Hadjar rounds off the grid. And now it's time to head down to the track. And alongside me today, former Formula One driver and former world champion too. See, told you I'll give you a big intro. Anthony Davidson, hello. Now you're the racing driver in this partnership, so tell us about this racing driver. Put us in their shoes. How are they going to be feeling?
Well, you've got to be prepared, Crofty. Before you even step foot inside the car, you've got to know, you've got to have a pre-race game plan. You've watched videos before you get into the car of previous races gone by. You know where you have to place your car if X, Y, or Z happens in front of you or behind you. So having this clear game plan is absolutely essential before you get in the car.
Okay, radio check, radio check. Okay, here we go. I know what you can do. Don't let me down.
It's not a bad starting position for this Grand Prix at all. So now taking a look at the race strategy, it's going to be the 2-stopper for today's race, starting off with a double stint on the mediums and going for the hard compound tyres to finish off the race. We've got 29 laps of racing ahead. It is 5 red lights and it is foot to the floor for the Bahrain Grand Prix here in Season 4. It's a very good initial start for ourselves, but look at this. Charles Leclerc's got a much better second part of the face, and so does Sonny Hayes, and we'll now make it 3 wide by changing direction to the inside at turn 1. A little bit of contact as we climb all over the curb very awkwardly, but we're going to get the very good run on the outside. We're not going to get just Sonny Hayes. We're going to go now side by side with Charles Leclerc as well, heading down into the next set of corners. But look up in front of us, Oscar Piastri. He is under threat from Lando Norris, and Norris is looking like he could take the lead here, because look at this, they're still going side by side, and now as they exit the first sector, that's a very tough part of the circuit to be going side by side. And now, Lando Norris, he does take the lead of the Grand Prix for McLaren, so this is going to be upsetting for Apex GP. I'm sure they would have been expecting just to sail off into the distance immediately at this one, but Lando has had different plans as we now look back through the rest of the top 10 as the field now settles down back into single file to work out their piece of real estate at the beginning of this race. And look at this, we're immediately under attack from Charles Leclerc in that Ferrari, and up ahead as well, you can see there as well, That is Oscar Piastri trying to get himself now back ahead of Lando Norris, and it looks like he has done just that. No, he hasn't actually, not as of yet. Lando Norris still leads the way. Is now Lando Norris sets the fastest lap of the race, but you can see in the battle box, Oscar Piastri is going for it with the aid of DRS and has got that one done, but we've been done by Charles Leclerc, and not only have we been done by Charles Leclerc, not as well, Sonny Hayes has come through. He's got us, and now is he going to be able to get Charles Leclerc too, because we were trying to shape up a move, and now it's Hayes. He's got the price of a 2 for 1 there through those first couple of corners. Now we go down the inside of Leclerc and we get the position gained, but that is a massive win for Sonny Hayes, because it wasn't too good of a start after I sent it on him on a lap 1, and that's a bit of a tank slapper from Charles Leclerc, and it's turning into a spin, and he has gone off the circuit, and he's going to lose a bunch of positions, especially this early on in the race. That was a huge mistake from the Monegasque driver in the Ferrari, and he's losing out all the way down to plumb last. And how did this look from his teammate, who was right behind? So it was nearly, it very nearly could have been a double DNF from Ferrari if Hamilton was not on it and able to take avoiding action. And yeah, it just looked like a big rear end loss for Charles Leclerc. You can see him now classified as 22nd position on the timings, and he's got 3 seconds to find if he even wants to catch up to the back of the main pack. But it is George Russell now looking to try and shape up a move on Alex Albon, but he hasn't been able to get it done yet. Luckily for himself, though, there is a second part of a DRS here for him to use. He'll now go up the inside at turn 4. Is he going to be able to get this one stuck? But Albon, look at this. He's keeping the nose in it. He's now keeping it around the outside. We saw this on lap 1 with the race leaders of Piastri and Lando Norris, and these guys going at it for P8 on the road. So definitely every point matters in this World Championship, and they still got it. This is Mercedes Power Unit versus Mercedes Power Unit as well. George Russell, in the end, he will take the position up into 8th position ahead of Alex Albon in that Williams, and further up the road, it's now Pierre Gasly taking a look at trying to get past the Ferrari of Lewis Hamilton, and this will be a fantastic overtake if he's able to get it done, because the Alpine on the performance charts is a half-decent car, but it's not as good as the Ferrari. So Pierre Gasly definitely putting this Alpine where it should not be, and that is inside the top 5. So kudos to Pierre Gasly getting that one done on the 7-time world champion of Lewis Hamilton. We've got our first objective of the Grand Prix, which is to overtake now Sonny Hayes. So we've sat behind him for a little bit. We're trying to build up a bit of ERS here, because we're using a lot of it just to be able to stay in the DRS of Sonny Hayes. So we're trying to save it where we can. And now Mark reckons that it is go time to try and get past Sonny Hayes and claim ourselves to that provisional podium position of 3rd spot, as now the battling between the Aston Martin Honda and the Williams of Alex Albon is kicking off. Now Max Verstappen has been a little bit quiet so far in this season in the opening rounds of China and Australia, but now finds himself still battling it out for a top 10 position. He hasn't been able to score all the time, but he is definitely trying to extract as much as he can. This Aston Martin Honda still keeping it side by side with Alex Albon. So Albon is probably dreading these battles, because look how much time he's losing to George Russell by doing this battling. Russell has bolted up the road by over 3 seconds now, and this battling continues as they now head down into this really awkward braking zone. Down the hill, it's a double left-hander, and just ever gets so more tight, and it's very easy to lock a brake. But look at this, it's actually Alex Albon who's got the better exit, and he's got to hold on to this 9th position ahead of Max Verstappen in that Aston Martin Honda. And now it's the other Williams. So that battling really cost Alex Albon time, because look at this. He's now got his teammate for company, but Max Verstappen has now got to deal with not one, but 2 Williams. And look at this. The 2 Audi Sports in the background as well have brought themselves into this battle too. And once more, the AI, they've been loving going side by side through this first sector here, through the S's, which is fantastic to watch, but it's only just costing themselves time, and it's causing this top 10 to spread out just a little bit. It's only Lewis Hamilton that's still within DRS range. Myself also in DRS range, sitting about half a second behind Sonny Hayes. Still trying to get myself close enough to shape up a move to pass that objective, but haven't been able to do it as of yet. And this battle continues now with Max Verstappen and the Williams there of Carlos Sainz. How is this one going to shape up all squirrely on the braking zone? It was actually for both the cars, and that is absolutely thrilling racing between the two. They continue to go side by side, and this has brought in the 2 Audi Sports of Maloney and Bortoletto. But look at that. Look who's split the 2 Audi Sport. That there is Kimi Antonelli, and I've just noticed as well, Oliver Behrman's brought himself into this battle as well, so we've got about 6 cars or so in this battle to try and get themselves into the points, which is really cool. And you may have seen, while that battling was going on, Lance Stroll unfortunately has dropped out of the race as one of the Racing Bull Fords nearly clipped the rear end of the Alpine there in that big plume of smoke. It was a bit of a smoke screen for whichever one that was, and so luckily no bigger collision there, but unfortunately for Lance Stroll, that is his day done here in Bahrain. And for ourselves, we're unable to overtake Sonny Hayes before lap 10 for ourselves, but we do pull into the pit lane, so that kind of actually just postpones the objective, so we're not going to lose any experience points from that one, luckily. So extremely good timing of the pit stop. It's a very good stop though, 2.3 seconds, and now we've got a little bit of a trek down the pit lane before we find out where we're going to pull out. There's a very nice gap at the moment on the circuit. Are we going to be able to get ourselves into this one? But no. So here comes one of the Audi Sports. They're going to go by. There goes Zane Maloney inside of the top 10 now. A few other cars are coming into the pits, and are we going to come out side by side with all of them? And we just come out in front of the Haas Toyota, and we managed to hold on to that position. So we've got a bit of clean air in front of us, but that clean air, that did not take very long for us to close up to the back of Zane Maloney. It was only about the first sector that lasted, just to show the grip advantage we now have to Maloney on those old hard tyres. I've done about the 10 laps of this Grand Prix so far, and so you can see a very easy overtake for ourselves now heading into this final sector of the circuit, and that puts us now up into 7th position on the road, but it's still a net a P4 that we're racing for, battling with Sonny Hayes, who has extended this hard tyre stint, starting on those hard compound tyres, and he's taking now the lead of the race because Oscar Piastri's come into the lane. The race leader is in, and he's, now that's interesting. He's gone onto the soft, so he's going for a much shorter middle stint, so that definitely confirms that everyone else should be on a 2-stopper here for this Bahrain Grand Prix, so it's not going to be just me. So Piastri is out on the soft compound tyres. Lando Norris is also, by the looks of it, on the soft compound tyres. Myself, though, on another set of mediums, as I did start the race on the mediums, and you can see I've closed the gap just a little bit to Lando. It's now 2 seconds between the two McLarens. Charles Leclerc also getting by Gabriel Bortoleto, with the pace difference of Bortoleto still not having come in for a pit stop. But here is Sonny Hayes now. He's finally in the lane. He's going to get rid of these hard compound tyres that he started the race on. They've been on for about 11 laps, and this circuit is definitely high tyre wear. It's usually about a 2-stopper. On previous games where the tyre wear hasn't been as dramatic, it was a 1-stop race, but on F125, where they finally fixed the tyre wears, it's definitely a 2-stop race, and Piastri goes flying by. There goes Lando Norris. So where are we going to shape up into this? This is going to be all so close, because here we are. We're being told now we've got low ERS, and it's now going to be around the outside. We broke so deep into that corner to get ourselves into that position, and we now get ourselves up ahead of Sonny Hayes. So that was a fantastic overtake. We got a little bit defensive to try and hold this position, because we've now got it ahead of Hayes, and we're on the same compound tyres as well. He's gone onto the mediums, a big slap of oversteer on the exit of turn 4. Now our next objective is to try and stay ahead of Sonny Hayes. This is going to be very difficult, because this is going to be us up against the absolute rocket ship that is the Apex GP car, so it's going to be extremely difficult, but I'm definitely going to give it a red hot crack, and it's in a spot that I wasn't expecting it to. There goes Sonny Hayes. Oscar Piastri set a fastest lap of the race, so those soft tyres have definitely kicked into gear for himself there. He's extending his lead ahead of Lando, who's also on the softs. And yeah, unfortunately for myself, that's a failed objective, but it kind of is what it is. I wasn't really expecting to be able to be ahead of Sonny Hayes for that long. But let's do an auto check now after the first phase of pit stop. So it's Oscar Piastri leading the way ahead of Norris and Hayes, rounding out the podium. Then myself, Gasly, Hamilton, Ocon, Russell, Albon, and Kimi Antonelli rounding out the top 10. And then it's Carlos Sainz, Max Verstappen in this battle here of Charles Leclerc versus Oliver Behrman. 2 Ferrari-powered engines, but one is in a Haas Toyota and the other is in the Works Ferrari. So this is going to be a very interesting battle, and nearly getting into the back of Max Verstappen was Oliver Behrman with how late on the brakes he was and how narrow he had to go into the corner, and the cutback from Verstappen taking the traditional racing line nearly caused a collision there with Oliver Behrman. And then it's Franco Colapinto in the Red Bull Ford sitting behind Zane Maloney, Liam Lawson, Gabriel Bortoleto in the second Audi Sport. Then it's Paul Aaron now looking to be overtaken by Isaac Hadjar. Is this move going to stick? It looks like, though, the outside line is where you want to be, and that's exactly what's happened. Paul Aaron stays ahead of Isaac Hadjar in that Racing Bull Ford, and then it's Jack Doohan, who is currently sitting in last, about 5 and nearly 6 seconds away from Isaac Hadjar, and he's last on the road because Lance Stroll is so far our only non-finisher of this race. Now jumping all the way to lap 18. A few laps have now passed, and we're now coming in for our pit stop here. Lando Norris from second position has already come into the lane, so he's trying to go for an undercut on Oscar Piastri. We'll have to keep tabs on how that one is going to play out, but we've come into the lane. It's an optimal turn-in for ourselves. It's another 2.3. The McLaren boys and girls ever consistent in the lane, but now, are we going to be fortunate enough to come out in another nice gap of traffic? We've got, according to the Delta there, a big gap to Alex Albon and Kimi Antonelli. So how is this one going to play out? I don't see anyone on the mini-map, and it looks like that is exactly the way it's going to play out. We've got so much clear air around us for us to work with. So this has been absolutely brilliant for ourselves. And now, Oscar Piastri, your race leader, is under threat from an undercut from Lando Norris. How is this one going to play out? Because Norris, you can see there on the timing, he's 2/10 behind George Russell. So he's stuck in some traffic at the moment, trying to use the fresh tyres to his best advantage. So this is really, really going to be crucial as to if Lando Norris is able to get himself up into this lead of the race. We saw him take the lead very early on in the Grand Prix. He was able to take it away from Oscar Piastri at the clutches of the race. And is this going to be the way it plans out? No. Look how far Lando Norris is back. He has lost so much time in this pit stop phase, and that's only going to play into the advantage of Oscar Piastri, because it means in scenarios like this, he can afford to wait just a little bit behind the traffic that is yet to pit. So he now makes a move at the final corner to get himself by Pierre Gasly, and now Sonny Hayes once again extending that middle stint. And now finds himself coming into the lane, and he'll be the last of the front runners to come into for a pit stop. Myself, Lando, Oscar, and now Sonny all coming into the lane. Your top four in this race, and at the moment, your top four has been we've kind of just driven away from the rest of the field. So the top four has really just been kind of in a class of their own and driving away from the rest of them, because Pierre Gasly and Lewis Hamilton, who were in 5th and 6th, were about 10 to 15 seconds behind. But where is this going to do? Are we going to be able to recreate what we did in the first stop? No. We have lost a heap of time in that one, because towards the end of that stint, you may have seen, we did lose the DRS from Sonny Hayes. So he was able to extend that stint quite nicely without me being in the tow. So I reckon that's going to be all she wrote for our chances of getting a podium, because that gap is now already out to nearly 6 seconds between myself and Sonny Hayes. As now an overtake's being done by George Russell onto Esteban Ocon. Very clean overtake to get himself now up into 7th position. And that is going to be pretty much all she wrote for that battle too. And now we get our next objective of the Grand Prix. It's going to be our final one too. And that is to achieve a faster lap time, because we need to try and keep the pace up in this final stint for ourselves, because we're on the hard compound tyres. But nearly everyone around us, except for Lando, they're on the softs. So that is a massive pace discrepancy that we need to try and find. You can see the gap is closing down now between Pierre Gasly and myself, and he's got Lewis Hamilton in the tow as well. So Lewis is ever so close to Pierre Gasly, and here he is now, and ever so close he really is, because he's using the DRS, pulls to the outside and gets the move done before they even reach the braking zone, and Pierre Gasly doesn't really challenge it in his Alpine. So that battle has been brewing for some time. Hamilton now ahead of Pierre Gasly and only 5.5 seconds behind me, but there's only 2 laps to go, so I think we've done enough in this final stint with our pace to try and hold on to this 4th position. And it's going, it's pretty disappointing, because it looks like we've locked in now 2 back-to-back P4s. So we're ever so much knocking on that door of a podium so far this season. It just hasn't been able to work out the way we want to. It's now at the dying stages of this race. Zane Maloney, his Audi Sport, has given up, but for this man, Oscar Piastri, what a drive. It's been so dominant. He nearly led from start to finish, apart from a little attack from Lando Norris at the start. Oscar Piastri claims victory in the Bahrain Grand Prix. Our teammate Lando Norris did all that he can at the start. Unfortunately, was not able to stay ahead of Oscar and claims a 2nd position. Sonny Hayes played his strategy very well to get himself ahead of myself and claims a podium to make it a double Apex GP podium for ourselves, though. Again, it's a P4, but it's a very disappointing P4, because we were with Sonny Hayes for much of that race to try and get ourselves that 3rd, and it just didn't eventuate.
And it's the checkered flag for your Grand Prix race winner, Oscar Piastri.
A great display of dominance today, Crofty, by this driver. They led from lights out to the flag at the end, led every lap of the race. Brilliant stuff by them, and excited to see what more they can do in future races.
What a day it's been for Formula One, and what a day it's been for these three drivers. Time for the podium celebrations. Time for our drivers to celebrate. And your winner today, the man from down under. Congratulations, Oscar Piastri.
It was the first race win for Oscar Piastri so far in this series. It's still been a clean sweep of race victories for Apex GP though this season, and he wins the Bahrain Grand Prix. Lando Norris is in second position, did all that he could at the start, but it wasn't enough, and Sonny Hayes rounds out the podium. And as I've been saying, the P4 is very disappointing, but it's still a good load of points, and we're keeping ourselves in about the championship battle. But for the rest of the top 10s, myself in fourth, Lewis Hamilton, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, George Russell, Charles Leclerc, and Kimi Antonelli rounding out the points. And unfortunately for Lance Stroll, he was the only non-finisher because Zane Maloney was actually still classified as 2 laps down in the end, despite us seeing that Audi Sport pulling over to the side of the circuit in Sector 1. And Sonny Hayes, he leads the Drivers' Championship still by now only 9 points to his teammate Oscar Piastri, with Lando in third, a further 23 points further behind, and myself in fifth, 1 point behind Lewis Hamilton. And Apex GP, they lead the Constructors' Championship by 60 points to McLaren. Ferrari are third, 16 points further behind. And I am now losing my teammate rivalry to Lando Norris. 5 out of 6 it is, so it is not looking too good. And then for the driver ratings, it's the experience, pace, and focus are losing points, but the racecraft and the awareness gains points for an overall rating of 95. Our driver recognition actually increases to 53% despite Lando beating us. And that is going to be all for this episode. If you did enjoy it, please make sure to hit the like and the subscribe button. It goes a long way on the channel, and we'll see you in the next episode when we head to Jeddah for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I'll see you then.